Morning. How's everyone doing today? Let's see. My name is Jenny Kemper. I'm the director of Kemper Cognitive Wellness. I'll be moderating today's message, Are All Supplements Created Equal? With our registered dietitian nutritionist, Nikki Gould, and with Valerie Hurst, our client advocate. In this webinar, Nikki will share with us why we need to supplement, what to look for in a quality supplement, fillers and other ingredients to avoid, sourcing quality supplements, and the role of blood work and testing to identify nutrition gaps and individualized supplement support. She has some recommendations for critical supplements to support brain health as well. In this webinar, we'll use the Zoom chat and QA features, found in your toolbar, most likely at the bottom or top of your screen. You may use either of these options to communicate with Nikki and I during the presentation. We will use the chat feature to ask questions and share insights throughout the webinar. When asking a question, you might share directly to the panelists or to the entire group. We will also use the Q&A feature. We will address questions throughout and leave some questions for the end of the presentation. We appreciate your participation. Please allow me a moment to tell you more about Kemper Cognitive Wellness. Located in Rocky River, Ohio, Kemper Cognitive Wellness is a functional medicine practice with special expertise in brain health, memory, and cognition. For over 20 years, the Kemper family has been known in Greater Cleveland and now in Columbus for Kemper House, a standalone residential care home for individuals with mid to late stage Alzheimer's disease and dementia. For the Kemper family, this disease is personal. My father-in-law was diagnosed about 10 years ago, and before that, his mother in the 1980s. Kristen Kemper asked herself, am I next? What about my children? She and Betty Kemper were moved by the latest research of Dr. Dale Bredesen and others, pointing to root causes of cognitive decline and multimodal interventions to effectively push back against the disease. At Kemper, our comprehensive protocols identify individual risk factors and personalized interventions. It's our goal to keep you out of Kemper House or other long-term care setting. We exist to help our clients live better, longer, and to really thrive in the second half of life. Among many risk factors for cognitive decline, several are lifestyle related, and we've begun to address those in this webinar series. As we wrap up this series, we're going to look at supplements today and how they can support brain and overall health. Let me introduce you to our presenter, Nikki Gould. Nikki is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and coach at Kemper Cognitive Wellness. Nikki has developed special expertise in the natural products industry over the last 15 years and is a highly regarded expert in nutraceutical products. She received a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics from Kent State University. She lives in suburbs of Cleveland with her 2 children, and we're fortunate to have Nikki on our team. Let's turn it over to Nikki and get started. Nikki?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm so excited to talk all about supplements. Like Jenny mentioned, I worked in a health store and in the natural products industry for 15 years. So it is something that I've had a lot of training out. I know the ins and outs of some of these companies because I've met specifically with different companies and their educators and how they formulate products. And I think that there are some amazing supplements that can do a lot of good. But there are also supplements that are no good. They're not helping us in any way, but some of them are downright dangerous. And I want to talk to you about kind of important supplements and some things that you might be missing out on, but most importantly, how you can decide for yourself what a quality supplement looks like and kind of evaluate your need to the best you can as far as do you need to supplement. We're going to talk about some common micronutrient deficiencies. We're going to talk about some supplements that are important from the different categories. If you've been with us through this whole course, starting with Dr. Bergman all the way till now, you've learned about different topics that are important for brain health, from stress to sleep to nutrition to movement. And there are supplements that can support each of those categories. So I will talk about those at the end. But let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. And we'll start the presentation here. Okay, So of course, before we start, we always have to have our disclaimer. While I am a health practitioner, I am not your personal practitioner. I don't know what medications you're on. I don't know your full health history. And there are side effects. There are interactions that can happen with supplements. So please, if you're considering taking a supplement that I've talked about, check with a doctor, or if you're a client here at Kemper Cognitive Wellness, we could certainly have a discussion about it. So what are supplements? Let's just start there because it's a really big category. Some people refer to supplements as medications, and they are different. Supplements are natural things. They are vitamins, minerals, enzymes, herbs, botanicals, amino acids. They're things that we are using to kind of fill in gaps that we may be low in, and things that can be supportive therapeutically. So those are when somebody says a supplement, it's probably one of these 6 categories, either a vitamin or mineral, an herb or enzyme, a botanical, or an amino acid. 77% of Americans do take a supplement. So this is something that I think even 15 years ago was a little bit different, and this is a lot. Most Americans are taking a pill, a supplement of some sort. I think back to the Dr. Oz show and when that first started and how things changed. I was working at a health store at the time, and how drastically things changed when he went on air because he brought attention to this side of things. Now, some of the things he talked about, there was a miracle every week, and you know, it was still a television show, but I think it opened a lot of Americans' eyes to the power and the benefit that supplements can provide, and why medications aren't the only option and shouldn't probably be the first option. Close to $35 billion spent on supplements each year. Are we wasting our money? Do we just excrete them out? Are we absorbing any? We're going to talk about some differences in types of supplements that can help you to know that your supplement is actually counting. What are people taking? What are the most popular supplements? Multivitamin is well over half, followed by vitamin D, vitamin C. Vitamin C is huge right now, vitamin C and zinc, because of immune benefits. Stores are wiped clean of shelves of vitamin C. We've had a lot of back-ordered products that I've seen for vitamin C products. Protein powders are also up there too, and protein powders are considered a supplement, not a food. So those are just some popular things. Turmeric and green tea, as far as more herbal products, those are the top 2 for there. So why do we need to supplement? Oops, sorry about that. See a chat coming in. Okay, so why do we need to supplement? We want to fill in gaps that are in the diet. We have our food, even though we may be eating the right foods, our food content doesn't contain the same level of vitamins and minerals as our great-grandmother's carrots did. You know, we're not getting the same level in our produce. It's still really important to eat fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and make the right food choices. So that's number 1. And with 65% of the American diet coming from processed foods, we are overfed as far as calories go, but we are underfed as far as micronutrients. And then when we try to eat those foods, they're not quite as high in the vitamin and mineral content as they once were. Some of us have higher nutrient demands. Certain medical conditions, if you're an athlete, you have higher nutrient demands. If you've got a lot of stress, you have higher nutrient demands. If you eat a poor diet, you have higher nutrient demands. So most of us have have a higher need for vitamins and minerals than we're actually able to get just through diet. There are medications that deplete nutrients. One of the most popular are medications that actually block acid, so like a Prevacid or Nexium or Prilosec. We need acid to actually break down and to absorb certain nutrients, B12, iron, calcium. So if you are taking those acid blockers regularly, you are depleting yourself of some really important nutrients. Statin drugs are another one that can deplete mainly levels of CoQ10, which is an important kind of an antioxidant like ubiquinone that's in every cell of the body that helps with cellular energy. So a popular common side effect when you're on a statin is you get leg cramps. Well, guess what helps with that? CoQ10. It helps with the energy in the muscle. So there's a lot of medications out there. I won't go through all of them, but something to pay attention to. And then you could supplement from a more therapeutic level to help address a health concern. If you are under stress, if you have joint pain, you know, there are different, if you have headaches, you can use then supplements to help to address those concerns versus turning to a medication. So you should try a supplement if you are looking to target deficiencies or fill in gaps in your diet, if you're looking to balance the system, and if you're looking to kind of manage a health concern with realistic expectations. How do you know, though, what you are missing? If you're thinking like, oh, how do I know if I have a gap in the diet? I eat pretty good. I eat, you know, 6 servings of vegetables because I was on your nutrition talk and I learned that that's really important. I eat berries every day. I'm eating nuts and seeds, but how do I know if I'm still missing something? And a personal story of mine, I truly do practice what I preach, guys. I wouldn't be up here telling you what to eat and what to do if I didn't do those practices myself. But I have gotten micronutrient testing several times over the years, and every time I am low in something. Usually it's the same, like B12 often comes up low for me. I don't eat a lot of foods that contain B12, so that's something that I've learned to supplement with. So even when you think you're eating everything you can, you're still probably deficient in something. I've yet to have a client come back with all perfect levels of micronutrients. So, and it's not something that our doctors regularly test for. You may think like, oh, my doctor said all my labs are good. I hear this all the time. And I'll say, well, what did they test for? And they kind of look at me and say, well, I don't know. I assume they're testing all of these things. They're not. They may be testing vitamin D, possibly iron, and maybe B12 at the most. You have to ask for those things usually or have a major reason as to why they're going to test those. So if you get a full panel, you can really address these core functions. Vitamins and minerals are critical for every cellular function. Every vitamin does, 75 plus things in the body. So if you're low on any of them, it's going to affect you. So I wanted to mention the SpectraCell micronutrient and omega test that we do here. If anyone is ever interested, give us a call. You can talk to myself, you can talk to Val. It really is a great way to see where I need to supplement. So you're not just blindly guessing. I'll take some vitamin C. I think it's good for my immune system. Maybe some E. I heard it's good for heart health and it's an antacid. Now we know what's in your blood, so we know then what to add. So I wanted to mention that as a good tool, and this is just the SpectraCell test that I really like. Different than a traditional test in that it's not looking at just that moment where your blood levels are. Very often I have clients come back and say, my doctor said my B12 is too high. And I'll say, are you taking B12? And they'll say, well, yeah. Well, if you supplement with it and you get a traditional blood test, it's looking at that moment, so it's capturing all of that supplemented B12, whereas SpectraCell looks at a history. So you're able to tell for months where your nutritional status is versus just that snapshot at that moment. And I think it's just much more valuable, and that's why I love SpectraCell. So if anyone is interested, I'll give you the info at the end, our phone number and all that, or you could email us as well. We're talking all about brain health here. Obviously, Kemper Cognitive Wellness, we're focused on the brain. So these are just some common micronutrients that are most critical for brain health. I could have put them all up here, but I wanted to just kind of isolate vitamin B6, B12, folate. Those are really important to lower some inflammatory markers that are associated with cognitive issues. So homocysteine specifically. Taking B6, B12, and folate is really helpful to lower that amino acid that can be quite destructive in the blood and damaging to the brain as well. It causes a lot of inflammation. Magnesium is such a critical mineral. A lot of people are deficient in magnesium, and magnesium has a very calming effect physically and mentally. So if you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you're needing calming down, if you need help sleeping, magnesium is a great option. It's also good for someone that gets like tension headaches or tight muscles or muscle cramping. That could be an indication that you're your magnesium levels are low. And increasing levels of magnesium in the brain has been shown to restore brain plasticity. And if you attended the talk that Allison did, she talked about how important it is to have this good brain plasticity. That's really important for good cognitive function. Omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, DHA, and DPA, all really critical for not just our brain as adults, but a pregnant woman to take for her developing fetus, for a young child. You'll see in baby formulas they're adding DHA in, and that was something that I think 15 years ago wasn't done. We now know how important those fatty acids are for a developing brain. And then into adulthood, when we have low levels, it affects our mood, it affects depression and anxiousness, it affects even our skin, like dry skin could be a sign. It's anti-inflammatory, very anti-inflammatory. So omega-3 fatty acids, if you don't eat fish, if you don't eat wild fish 3 times a week, you are probably deficient in omega-3s. I can almost guarantee it. So supplementing with omega-3 can be really critical to fill in a huge gap that we're deficient in. Vitamin D, I mean, everyone's heard of that by now. Vitamin D is really critical. They found those with dementia and Alzheimer's have lower levels. So really important to make sure we're getting vitamin D. And I'm looking outside today, it's very gloomy. There's 0 sun, it's very rainy. That will probably continue into June. So we really here, if you're in the Ohio area, we're only getting sunlight maybe 3 months out of the year. So we really need to supplement with good amounts of vitamin D. And there are some good research coming out looking at vitamin D and viruses right now as well. So it's important to take or get tested on vitamin D. And vitamin E is a really good antioxidant. It's important to fight free radical damage. It's good for the eye health, it's good for the brain. And then zinc is another one that we do tend to see lower levels in those that have a cognitive issue. So I wanted to just point out those few. Like I said, I could have talked about all of them because if you're deficient in B2, that could affect you cognitively. But these are the main ones that we tend to see low in those that are experiencing cognitive issues.
Hey, Nikki, you had a question from the beginning. Somebody asked about taking vitamin D and also magnesium on a daily basis. What are your thoughts on that? Is that important that they maybe get the micronutrient test, do you think, to make sure they're taking the right amounts, or?
Yeah, so my answer to should I take this will always be, let's get you tested first, because I can look at what you're eating and I could look at you just generally and try to guess. But like I said, I am deficient in things that I didn't necessarily, like glutathione and glutamine are two. I never would, I wouldn't have guessed that. So getting tested is going to be your best step. That being said, vitamin D isn't going to hurt someone if they take too much. Like vitamin A, if you're taking the active form of vitamin A and you take too much, it can be damaging for you. Vitamin D, we don't see the same amount of toxicity there typically. So it's safe for most people to take 1,000 to 2,000. I've even seen 5,000 IUs a day as recommendations this time of year. If we know where your levels are, it will be easier to know which dosage to give you. But I do think vitamin D is important. Same thing with magnesium. Magnesium is something I keep on hand. I don't take it every day, but I use it if I feel like I'm getting a headache, or if I just want to go into a stressful time, or if I want to make sure my sleep is really good. I tend to be very sensitive to magnesium, so it makes me very sleepy, which I like. I'm sensitive to it. For others, it just kind of promotes a sense of calmness. So you can absolutely supplement with them. There are different forms though, like magnesium specifically, I would either take a glycinate or a form called magnesium L-threonate. I'm going to repeat that at the end when I'm talking about actual supplements. But magnesium L-threonate is really good for brain. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and it will not cause GI upset. Magnesium can be a laxative. Remember I said it relaxes, it can relax the bowels, it pulls water in. So if you're taking like a magnesium oxide or even a higher amount of a citrate, that could have a laxative effect. I don't like the oxide form at all. So even if someone's really looking for that effect. So I would stick to glycinate or threonate. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's move on here. So So who should not be taking a supplement? When do we avoid a supplement? I love this image. I think it's just so powerful. You do not want to supplement if you have not yet analyzed and looked at your diet. You cannot supplement your way out of a poor diet and lifestyle. And I just want to like emphasize that to the nth degree, because it's so easy. And I had so many discussions, and people would come into the store, or people call me now and they say like, you know, I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm having pain, or I'm doing this and I'm having these issues. What's a pill I can take? And I'll look at them and they're not eating great. They're not exercising. And it's like, we've got to start there. So not to, you know, beat a dead horse too much, but look at your diet first and use those supplements to fill in the gaps and to add a little bit of extra benefit. If you hate fish, you're never going to eat it in your diet, that's when you can take a fish oil. If you're someone that is looking for a vegetable, you know, all your greens in a pill, you're not going to find that in the same level as if you were to eat good doses of kale and broccoli and microgreens and things like that every day. So you cannot supplement your way out of a poor diet. That's number one. You also will want to avoid a supplement if you are looking for some sort of quick fix or cure. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You've probably all heard that before, and it really is the same with a supplement. I have seen it all. I've seen companies that say, you know, lose 20 pounds in 7 days, and your brain, like there's a study out there that if you do this, you'll have the cognitive function of a 25-year-old again, and it just doesn't translate. The companies that are making those really bold, miraculous claims are companies I would avoid at all costs, because they are looking to make money off of you. Remember when I said in the beginning how much money we are spending on supplements, and these companies know that. And while there are great companies out there, there is even more that are trying to just make a good buck, and they'll lock you in, and they'll try to, you know, get your hopes really up, and there may be even a placebo effect that's happening. So supplements can be very helpful, but these are not miracle cures by any means. And if you're on a prescription medication, it's always important to check with a practitioner. The biggest one is if you are on warfarin or Coumadin, that interacts with a lot. So be really careful. It's not to say you can't take a fish oil if you're on a blood thinner, or you can't take a turmeric if you're on a blood thinner, but you have to be in touch with your doctor so they can measure the specific levels and just make sure that you're not, your blood's not too thin. So that's just another important thing. So how do you pick a good supplement? How do you know what to look for? Transparent labels are huge. The more a company puts on their label, the better. I want to know not just that this is a herb in here. I want to know where it comes from. I want to know how you processed it and what type of extraction it is. There are a million different types of extractions, and specifically with herbs, this is really important. Not all, let's say turmeric, because I know that's one of the most popular ones, not all turmeric is the same, and you cannot just look at milligrams to know which one's stronger if it's a different extract. And I'm gonna, hopefully that's not too confusing. I'm gonna break that down and give you an analogy that might be helpful. Think of 2 cups of water, same weight, you know, both are equal in the amount. One is boiling hot water and one is ice cold water. And let's put a tea bag in each of them. Which one of those do you think is going to be stronger? It's the hot water, right? Because we know hot water draws tea out. If you're not a tea person, you could think of the same thing with coffee. The reason coffee is typically brewed hot is because you extract more out of those coffee beans versus if you were to put the beans in cold water. So just like you could extract tea and coffee different ways just by changing the temperature of the water, you can change the potency, which is really the strength of a product, by changing the way it's extracted. So did they use water to extract it versus alcohol extract? Alcohol is going to draw out more. Is it a supercritical extraction, which is using CO2 to really concentrate? That's a much more potent extract. So huge variety, and that's what makes some supplements, you know, you can find a turmeric for $10 or you could find a turmeric for $50, and you don't necessarily need to always go with the most expensive, but I would put my money on the fact that it's probably a better extracted product that you're actually going to absorb and get more out of. So just make sure you're looking and reading as much as you can about it on the label. Hopefully a good company is going to put as much or have links to their website where they'll give you studies that show the types of extractions that they're using. Ingredient details, same thing. The more that, kind of specific they are, the better. If they're using a K2, does it come from soy? Does it come from garbanzo bean? Like, I want to know these details. I don't want them to be hiding anything. We're going to talk about other ingredients in a minute. We're so caught up in looking at the supplement facts that we forget to kind of scroll our eyes down a little bit further and look at that other ingredients section, because that is where a lot of companies hide some pretty just unfavorable ingredients that you don't want to be putting in your body. So check out the other ingredients, not just the active ingredients. Look for label claims. Are they making outrageous claims? We talked about that before. You want a company that's going to give you some supportive evidence on a product, not just make bold claims for no reason. Cost is important. You don't have to break the bank on supplements, but I will tell you from my experience working with all sorts of companies, practitioner lines down to discount brands, you do, in a sense, get what you pay for when it comes to supplements. And if you are bargain shopping for something you are putting in your body, it's probably not the best place to use those sales and discounts. I would highly suggest getting a brand that's more reputable, because it will then have better label claims, have full transparent labels, have these certifications, USDA organic, non-GMO, project verified. GMP stands for good manufacturing practices. That has to do with the company itself and are they doing things well. There's quality assurance international labels as well. So those are a few that I like. Many people say, well, is it pharmaceutical grade? It's not really something that tells me much of anything, to be honest. So USP or pharmaceutical grade, I would much prefer to see those other certifications that I have there on your screen. Can a company provide a COA, a certificate of analysis? This is really important when we're talking about herbs and when we're talking about things like CBD oil. If a company cannot provide that to you within minutes, get away from that company, get away from that supplement, because that tells us that these companies are testing. Ideally, they're having third parties come in and do these tests. But if you're curious on if a herb or if a CBD has a certificate of analysis, call the company. Some better companies, I know Charlotte's Web puts a little QR code. You could just scan it and it could tell you that exact batch and everything they've analyzed. But this is a way to help you know that what it says on the bottle is actually what's in the product. You may have read or heard of a story a couple years ago that companies like Walmart and drugstore companies, they were taking turmeric and they were testing it, and they found little to no turmeric actually in the product. It was mostly rice powder. I heard sawdust I've seen in some reports. So again, like, we need to know that what we're taking is, one, going to make a difference, and two, not going to hurt us. So that's where the certificate of analysis comes in. If you still have questions, if you are not at a health store or somewhere where there's educated people to ask, call the company and see what they can tell you about their products. Ask educated questions. Ask things like sourcing. You know, where did this come from? Ask about what kind of testing they do. Do they have third-party testing or certificates of analysis they can provide? How is the product extracted? What form are they using? Is it synthetic? Those are important questions to know and to ask for. And if had this happen, many companies can't answer these questions. Hang up and move on to a different brand.
Nikki, before you moved on, I just wanted to mention personal situation. So when Nikki was talking about the ingredient details, I had a food sensitivity done, and I also did the micronutrient test, but I just wanted to share that in my food sensitivity, I was very sensitive to soy. So every time I look at the, supplements I take, I have Nikki look at them, because there's a lot of soy in supplements too. So that would have, adversely by taking something that I thought was going to be good for me, and here it had an ingredient in it that was not good for me. So
That's a really good point. Thank you, Val, for bringing that up, because yeah, if you are sensitive to a food, you also have to make sure it's not in your supplement. And many supplements come from corn or from soy. If it's in a soft gel and it's, you know, the better companies probably wouldn't, but most other companies, if it's in a soft gel, so vitamin E, vitamin D typically comes in a soft gel, it probably has soy in it. And you could look at the other ingredients. You can also look for an allergy label, like it should say free of gluten, soy, wheat, artificial flavors and colors. You know, the better companies, especially with so many sensitivities and allergies happening, and people being more aware of them, more companies are labeling those things. And the better companies are free of those across the board. And I'll talk about some of the companies that I really like at the end. So thank you, Val. That was a good point. Let's talk about multivitamins for a minute. Okay, so I know some of you on this webinar will be taking the multivitamin that has these other ingredients in it. I took out all of the ingredients that were part of the vitamin or the mineral, and I just left all of these extra things. So microcrystalline cellulose, that's typically what makes up, if it's a capsule, a lot of it comes from like wood pulp or something like that. Not the best, but I'm not as worried about that. Maltodextrin, modified cornstarch, and more cornstarch, all corn ingredients, really important to be aware of if you have a corn allergy. Maltodextrin, though, some people are just very sensitive to. BHT, and then it says to preserve freshness. So you think, oh, that's wonderful. BHT has been shown to be somewhat carcinogenic. Are you getting enough in this little teeny pill to increase cancer risk? I don't know, but over a lifetime of taking these things, why risk it? You're taking something to better your health. That's why you're taking a supplement. Why would you also put in things that could be harmful, could be damaging? Artificial colorings, blue 2 Lake, red number 5, yellow 6, yellow 1. If you see any of those on the label, go to a different brand, because if they're not paying attention to putting artificial coloring in it, they're certainly not going to pay attention to the quality of the active ingredient either. So a lot of fillers here, silicon dioxide, talc. Who wants to eat talc, right? Why is that even in there? So I'm going to show you what this is a label from, and this is the #1 selling vitamin in America. So if you are taking this, don't feel bad. We don't know, you know, you don't know until someone educates you, and that's why I love doing this talk. But this is the vitamin, it's Centrum Silver. And like I said, it's the #1, Centrum is the #1 selling multivitamin. Why? Because it's everywhere. It's at Target, it's at Walgreens, it's at Walmart, it's at drugstores, it's in your grocery store, it's everywhere. It's not too expensive. And there's commercials saying like how great this product's got everything that you need in it, and there's calcium for your bones, and they make a weight loss formula, and they do all this stuff, and you think it's great. And also doctors are promoting some of these products because, again, they're not educated in functional medicine. They're not educated in natural products. So they don't know. They think, oh, it's not going to hurt you. Well, the stuff in here could hurt you. And this is just not a great option. So if you have this at home, like I said, please don't feel bad. But next time you're ready to buy a multi, there are certainly some better options that you can choose for that we'll talk about at the end. Are you guys surprised to see that? Most people are very surprised about that.
Yeah, when we do this presentation live, there's, you know, everyone's got their hand up that they're taking Centrum, and they're rather disappointed. I'll say that to hear your message here, Nikki, about what's actually in their multivitamin.
Yeah, yeah, and there are some good products at those same stores if you're, you know, stuck on purchasing them there, and just pay attention to those other ingredients and just make sure it doesn't have a lot of the extra stuff in it. But where should you really be purchasing supplements? A health store, from your practitioner, or we use an online dispensary called FullScript. It is a whole dispensary of practitioner grade and products that meet all the criteria that I mentioned earlier. This is a dispensary that many practitioners use that I trust. It's convenient because you just click on the link, We even set up a lot of the supplements in the catalogs for you. So if you have questions or if you're coming to us as a client, we'll give you a direct link and we'll add the supplements we think you should be taking just already. If you're new to FullScript, you can just browse right there. The supplements I'm going to talk about next, you can find all on FullScript, and it delivers right to your house. And to me, it's a great way to know if you want the convenience of ordering online without the danger that comes with it. And let me tell you, I've ordered things on Amazon. I've ordered things because they come in 2 days and I wasn't able to get it through the store, get it through here that quickly. And when I've opened them, they do not look the same as what I know the pill should look like. It really scares me when people order things they put into their body off of a company like Amazon or these other like big warehouse products. One, you aren't always getting a better deal. We did price matching at the store that I worked at, and people were misled. They thought just because it was on Amazon, it was less expensive. But two, you have no idea how they're storing it, what temperature it's been exposed to. If you're getting a probiotic or an oil product like a fish oil or anything that's in a soft gel, if that's been exposed to heat, it could actually be dangerous for you. If it's a probiotic, it will just probably lose potency. But if it's an oil that goes rancid and you can't tell because it's encapsulated, it's really bad. It's very toxic for you. So be really careful, guys, when you order products. Go to a local health store. Somewhere like Whole Foods also would be an okay place, or Heinen's if you're in the area. But ideally, you're meeting with a practitioner and they could set you up with somewhere like FullScript. And we often run discounts and sales on FullScript as well. So if anyone's interested in that, you can provide us your email and we can send you a link for FullScript.
Yeah, Nikki, I just added the link in the chat right now. It's kemperwellness.com/FullScript, and all of our clients get 10% off, and shipping is free. There's a $5 rushed shipping option too. So it's a great option for folks.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's wonderful. Awesome. Okay. Someone just sent a question. My doctor has me on vitamin D for years to prevent osteoporosis. I take 10,000 IUs a week. 66 and wondered what you think about this. I think vitamin D is really important. It's interesting that they're doing 10,000 IUs once a week. A common dose is 50,000 once a week if you're really low. So if you wanted to, you could probably space that out. One thing that I think is missing for a lot of those that are at risk for osteoporosis is vitamin K2. So we think of vitamin K, you probably think of blood clotting and you think of leafy greens, but vitamin K is actually vitamin K. There's two main forms of vitamin K. K1, which is what you find in leafy greens, that's important for blood clotting. And then there is K2 that helps, I always think of it like a little traffic cop that helps the calcium go into the bone away from your arteries and your heart, because what we're finding is many women that are taking thousands of milligrams of calcium, and they just increased the RDI for it to like 1,200. I personally don't think you need to be taking 1,200 milligrams of calcium for most women because it's not going to the bone. It's going into your arteries and causing arterial calcification. K2 can decrease that. Studies have shown by about 50% and sends the calcium where it needs to go in the bone. So if you're concerned with bone health, find a product that has magnesium, vitamin D, and some calcium in ideally a food form or a form like a hydroxyapatite, and then has the K2 with it. Those are like big ingredients. So versus just one thing versus just vitamin D, you can take something that's got a little bit more comprehensive support in there. Hopefully that answered. I think it's safe to take 10,000. It's just a different way of doing it where you're taking a full dose at once a week versus splitting it up. If your levels are looking good, if things seem to be improving, then I would say stick with it. But if things are starting to decrease again, then I would look for maybe another option. Okay, let's talk about some better options. I lost my picture for the other one on here. I'm sorry, I don't know where it went, but pure encapsulations, just in general, their entire line, they call themselves hypoallergenic because they are gluten-free, They are soy-free, non-GMO. They don't use corn. They don't use any of the major allergens. You still could have an allergy to something like, you know, broccoli, and it's in there because that's not one of the top ones. But for most people, Pure Encapsulations is one of the purest lines. It's practitioner grade. They use good forms of everything, which is important when you're getting B vitamins. You want to make sure they're active forms. So let's take B12, for example. Most B12s are cyanocobalamin, whereas you want them to be methylcobalamin. You want them to be methylated because it makes it more active, and some people have a genetic predisposition that they can't methylate. So you're taking a product and it's not working. So we want the best forms, and we want it to be clean as possible. Pure Encapsulations, the one multivitamin itself has some extra antioxidants in it. It has 2,000 IUs of vitamin D in just a one a day. And it's got higher amounts of B vitamins than you traditionally find in a one a day. So I absolutely love this multi. They make another one. Pure Encapsulations makes one called Pure Genomics. That's another great one. It's even higher in B vitamins. So instead of having to take a B complex and a multi, you can get it all in one. So that's a great line. I also like Mega Food or Innate. It goes by both names. But Mega Food is a whole line of, most of their products are vegetarian or vegan, even vegan certified. A lot of them are soy-free. They are whole food, meaning the forms of the vitamins are like you're eating them from food. They're using rice bran for vitamin E. They're using broccoli as a source of the folate. So vitamin C, they're using a American farm, Uncle Matt's, to provide oranges, and another farm in Hawaii that provides turmeric. So they're a really good whole food company. The only thing I have to say negative about them is their tablets, which I think are fine. I think they're very easily digested, so don't worry about the capsule versus liquid versus tablet thing. But they're big. So if you have trouble swallowing, a one-a-day multivitamin in a tablet might be harder for you to swallow. So something like Pure Encapsulations might be easier because they're capsule form, might just go down faster. But Mega Food and then Pure Encapsulations are really two great lines of multivitamins. There's a question that came in, do I have a suggestion for some good brands that come in chewables? I'm glad you brought that up. For some of us, we have to do a chewable because we may have issues with swallowing. If you do not have an issue with swallowing, do not do a chewable and do not do a gummy. Gummies are, oh my gosh, I've seen everything in gummies, and it's just really funny to me, but you're getting a lot of sugar. You're getting much less of the active ingredient when they have to put it in a chewable or a gummy. And so it's just not quite as good. If you have to do it though, a liquid might be an even better option, or the lines like Pure Encapsulations also do make a chewable. So you can get the same brands and just choose a chewable option there. And just know that when something is chewable, you may have to take more. You may have to take 3 pills that are chewable because they just can't fit it all like they can when they press a pill in like a one a day or into one capsule. It is okay if it's a multivitamin to open it though. I don't know how it would taste, but you could take a capsule of Pure Encapsulations and put it in your smoothie and drink it that way, or put it in some applesauce and do it like that. And you probably get a more potent product that way. Another question, I've ordered Pure Encapsulations products on Amazon and it comes sealed. Would this be included in your warnings about Amazon products? Yes, my product was sealed as well. No idea what happened. There are people that are sealing things up and making money off of this. We just don't know. Amazon is just like this warehouse of other people that also sell the product. So you just have no idea if it's a product that's been sitting in their car all summer. Expiration looks great. It's sealed, so you think it's okay. So I just really don't like to order anything on Amazon personally. Just a personal thing, but an educated opinion, I would say. I've also ordered an essential oil on Amazon. It did not smell anything like what the oil should have smelled like. It was not good. So I learned my lesson a couple times. It took me a couple times because the convenience is such a nice thing, but if you can do full script, it's just as convenient. It comes very quickly and it's more secure. So let's talk about some of these categories that we've gone through over these few weeks. Movement is a very important thing. A lot of people don't move well because they have achy joints. They have a lot of inflammation happening. Omega-3 fatty acids are huge. Like I said, they're a huge deficiency. If you are not eating wild salmon, wild sardines 3 times a week, you're not getting enough. And they're an essential fatty acid, meaning our bodies cannot make them. So we have to eat them. And if you're not eating them, then supplement. If you are vegetarian or vegan, you can get an algae-based, I should have put an image on here, but you can get an algae-based omega-3 that's going to be better absorbed and better utilized than doing just like a flaxseed or a hemp or a plant source of omegas. Do an algae if that's a concern for you. This is Nordic Naturals. They're a company I've worked with for many years. They're not farmed at all. They are line caught. They're processed properly. They're tested for all of the contaminants that we want to be concerned of, the mercuries and leads and heavy metals that could be in a concentrated fish oil. But what I like too is that they're a specific form called a triglyceride form. And that is how the fish naturally comes. If you were to eat salmon, the fish oil you're eating is a triglyceride form. But what these companies do is when they process it, the end product is no longer in the same form because it kind of breaks, I don't want to get too into detail, but it breaks apart the fatty acids. So Nordic uses enzymes and puts them back together, and it makes it a more potent product. Even if the milligrams are exactly the same as a product that's not a triglyceride form, you are absorbing that triglyceride form better. That's why milligrams do not equal potency. If you've got 2 products and one costs a lot more than the other, but they're the same milligrams, look at how that other product was processed and extracted, because it will probably be a better product. And I'm not talking about a little difference. I'm talking about 50 times more absorbable. So you'd have to take 50 of the cheaper brand to equal 1 of the good one. So just, be aware of that. They also make a product that has some curcumin in it, which curcumin is from turmeric, very anti-inflammatory, very good for your joints. Also really good for the brain, so that's a win-win supplement there as well. Okay. Moving on, we have the stress category. Who doesn't have stress? Anybody? No. Of course, we all have to deal with it. And I'm a person that I don't necessarily feel stressed, so I know I'm dealing with a lot. And internally, before I became a dietitian, even this was probably 15, 16 years ago, I started having like hair loss, and I wasn't sleeping well, and I just didn't feel good. I had very low energy during the day, and I ended up I found a holistic practitioner at the time, and she tested hormones, and she said, your adrenals are like off the charts. You must be really stressed. And no, I'm not stressed. I don't feel like I am. But internally, some people internalize stress and maybe don't even realize it. There was a lot going on. And it's not just, I always had thought, at least at the time, that stress was more of a feeling. It was more of like, oh, I don't feel stressed, I must not be. But there's a physical response in the body. Your adrenals put out these hormones that are fight or flight hormones that when they're high chronically, and if you attended the stress lecture, you learned all about this. If they're high chronically, you have a lot of health issues because of that. Your sleep is disturbed. You may have brain fog. You have a lowered immune system. So we need to help to normalize that adrenal response and that stress response. And that can happen with adaptogenic herbs. So holy basil, rhodiola, ashwagandha. Those are some of the best herbs that I like that you'll find in a lot of stress products. They take time to work. These are not things that are going to be immediate fixes. So if you're taking a stress formula, give it at least a month, take it at full dose. And you should also be doing some breathing techniques that Allison had probably shared with you. You should be exercising. You should be doing other things, changing your diet. But it was life-changing. I actually took the Mega Food Adrenal Strength. I still take it today. I love it. It was, for me, the right fit. For others, magnesium, doing just like this is the NeuroMag. So this is that magnesium threonate. You take 3 pills. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's the dose. Magnesium is just a really big mineral. So it seems like you're taking, oh, I don't need 3 pills. but it's not the same as other forms of magnesium. So take them. We suggest taking them in the evening. Take them before bed. It will probably help your sleep. If you were getting leg cramps, it might help with leg cramps, but it's a great form of magnesium for calming and for stress. And then there's products like the Pure Encapsulations Cortisol Calm, which is just another blend. It's got some vitamins and minerals in there. It's got some theanine in there. It's got some adaptogenic herbs as well. So that's another really helpful product. So these are, again, we're not supplementing ourselves out of other habits that we also need to be practicing. But this, for me, it was a pretty life-changing benefit when about 21 days, 3 weeks in for me taking an adrenal product. I was able to sleep better. My brain fog had gone away. I was even losing so much hair at the time, and it didn't come back immediately, but it stopped falling out as much right away. And that was a big deal for me. So these are great products. If you have any sort of stress, those can be helpful. Talked about sleep. Dr. Bergman talked about how important sleep is for brain health. If you are not sleeping, if you are getting interrupted sleep, if you have sleep apnea, you are losing oxygen, and it's like little bits are damaging your brain every single night. Sleep is also restorative for our health in other ways, and just the way, even our skin, like sleeping is a true restorative process for brain and elsewhere. So I would say sleep supplements are probably the category where there's the biggest amount of like variability, like what works for one doesn't work for the other. Typically with most people, like the multis are all good across the board, the anti-inflammatory stuff, for most people, they respond the same. But sleep is one category where I do find more differences. And so you could start, if you have trouble falling asleep, you would take a quick-acting supplement. If you have trouble staying asleep, like I have this controlled release melatonin on the screen, timed release, sustained release, controlled release, something like that would be a better option, because that way you're getting a little bit throughout the night to keep you asleep. There are combination products like Sleep Aid by Vital Nutrients that are wonderful. I tend to prefer blends than I do just one ingredient. But if you're sensitive and just starting out, just start with one thing, that is fine. But I would say that the Sleep Aid has passion flower, lemon balm, theanine. Theanine is very, very calming. Melatonin, there's a little bit of melatonin, I think like 0.75 milligrams, so very small amounts in there, just to give you like a whole wide range of support. You could also use that magnesium that I put on the screen before, and those are things to try also. So those are great supplements. But what about cognitive health? Are there products that can just support our cognitive health? Well, first, take a look at those pillars. Take a look at those other places that can really affect brain health. If you are not sleeping, before you take something just for brain health, correct your sleep. You know, if you're really stressed, before you get into doing something therapeutically for one area, correct that. So address those initial things, micronutrient deficiencies and sleep and movement and stress first. Then let's move on to these additional formulas. So lion's mane mushroom is a personal favorite of mine. I've had good experience with it. It's very gentle. I'm someone that's sensitive to everything, and lion's mane was really helpful. I didn't really notice anything at first, and again, about a month in fact, it was really when I stopped taking it that I noticed how much it was helping. And sometimes that happens where you forget how bad you were at first. Like this happens with pain supplements too, where people will take something and they don't know if it's helping and they stop it, and then it's like, oh, all their pain was amplified. And for me, I noticed I wasn't cognitively as sharp as when I was taking lion's mane. So it's great for cognitive health. It increases BDNF, which is a protein that they're finding when low levels in those with dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's important to boost those levels. It also is very helpful for neuron development and creating new neurons, and for nerve support. So if someone has neuropathy, lion's mane can also be a helpful thing. It takes time, but it's wonderful. It shouldn't bother your stomach unless someone had a severe mushroom allergy. That would be the only time I would say it's probably not a good idea to take lion's mane. But you have to take it consistently, and you have to take full doses, at least 2 pills a day in this particular brand. Host Defense is a great brand if you're considering mushrooms. that is my go-to. I won't get into all the details behind the company, but Paul Stamets is a mycologist that runs the company, and he literally lives and breathes mushrooms, and a lot of research goes into the products, as well as them being grown very organically. And then there's a combination formula, like the Brain Vitale. This is a really good combination of things like acetyl L-carnitine. There's phosphatidylserine in here. There's some coffee berry. Coffee berry helps increase BDNF a lot as well. I think there's 100 milligrams in a full serving of that product also. I believe there's some ginkgo in there as well. So it's kind of giving you good amounts of everything. You could combine these two for a really good benefit. Take 2 lion's mane, and I think the Brain Vitale, I think that is it's either 2 or 3 a day. I'm sorry, I don't have that right in front of me. But that would be a great combination too if you're just looking to see if you can get a little bit of a boost cognitively. So those are the main categories that I have. So brands that I like: Designs for Health, Pure Encapsulations, Mega Food. Those are some of my favorite brands. If it's a mushroom product, Host Defense. Those are amazing products that if it's a product in that one of those brands, it's probably going to be a well thought out, well researched, better forms of ingredients used in those types of products. Someone is asking, how about flaxseed? For what? What are you looking for? I'm assuming, and if I'm wrong, please type a response. I'm assuming you're looking at flaxseed because it's a source of omega-3s. So you're thinking, can I eat flaxseed instead of supplementing with an omega-3 fish oil? And my response would be that first of all, the flax seeds have a lot of fiber and not a ton of omega. So they are still something that I think is very healthy to eat. If you can consume them regularly, there's a lot of good nutrition there. To me, they're not a replacement, though, for the amount that we need as far as the omega-3s that are in fish oil goes. If you're looking at flax oil is not a direct source of EPA, DHA, and DPA. And those are really what we want when we take an omega-3. We want those things. So when you look at a fish oil label, you will see how much. In fact, let me go back real quick and just show you even on the front of this one. When you look, you could see right here, 650 EPA, 450 DHA. You can't see that on a flax oil bottle because it's not giving you a direct source of those essential fatty acids. It's giving you a parent fatty acid that then converts in the body to those. We don't convert things very well. A lot of us are missing the enzymes required to make that count. So I do think a fish oil is going to be, if it's for omega-3, we're talking about a fish oil is going to be much better than a flax oil. If you are vegetarian or vegan, an algae-based source is going to be direct sources. It's one of the only plant sources that is a direct source of EPA and DHA. So go for an algae-based source if that's what you're looking for. What do I think about Metagenics? Someone is asking, love Metagenics too. Metagenics is another practitioner brand, and I do like their products. They've got some good products for like detoxing and candida, and they have some other good combination formulas. So I do thank you for mentioning Metagenics. I do like Metagenics. I also like Douglas Labs. All of those companies are practitioner lines, but lines like Nordic Naturals, Mega Food, Host Defense, those are lines that you can find right at your like local health stores. They'll have those as well. Okay. So let me know if you have questions. If you have questions, please type those in. But just a reminder as to why we did, cognitive function in the 21st century and cognitive health. We need to realize genes are not your destiny. Just because you have a genetic predisposition, just because something runs in a family, does not mean you cannot make changes to greatly, drastically lower your risk. Good nutrition, movement, stress management, quality sleep, and proper supplementation, as well as community. You've got to have a sense of support. When we look at places around the world, these blue zones, if you've heard of them, why they live so long, why there is such a low risk of disease in these little pockets around the world, Loma Linda, California, and Okinawa, Japan, and there's a Greek island, and I think Sardinia, Italy. There's different pockets of the world that they are doing these things, and they have virtually no Alzheimer's. They don't have the same cancer death rates that we have. They don't have heart disease. They don't have people dying earlier from these chronic diseases because they're eating a mostly plant-based diet. They're moving a lot. They're doing things to manage stress, just part of the culture. Tai Chi, they're doing meditation, they're doing breathing. I don't know if they're supplementing, but there's also a lot of community there. And when we do studies on the rates of depression that we have in this country versus looking at some very lower income countries and third world countries, they don't have the same rates of depression. You would think people that are struggling as much to even just find food for survival would have higher rates. But because there is such a sense of community and support, they don't have the same levels that we have here. So that source of community is going to be really important to keep, and finding like-minded individuals is another aspect that we didn't get to, but is a really important thing. So we can help with all of these things if you need help with them. If you are interested in viewing any of these presentations, again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to be putting more and more content up there. I know Allison has a breathwork video. We have all of the parts of these brain health in the 21st century, all of the parts to that we have up there as well. So please check that out. And I wanted to mention, because I just talked about community, if you're interested in small group coaching and having it guided and being able to meet people, right now we're doing them virtually, but still through Zoom, you could see their faces, you can interact, you can ask questions. We're hoping then to get back to our in-person groups, but Change Your Mind is a great, powerful experience that will take you more in depth through a lot of the things we covered, even more so. And most importantly, will help you actually implement these changes. Allison is our health coach. She's amazing. She's going to help give you techniques. And you're with a supportive group. So if you need that sense of community, that's a great group to join. And it's about a 4-week commitment. And there is a fee for that, $225. Is that correct, Jenny?
That's correct,
$225.
Mm-hmm.
For that. And you get a lot of perks with it. You get an extra discount on FullScript. You get a lot of other benefits with that. So if you're interested at all, please call us or email us at info@kemperwellness.com. Any other questions? Does anyone have any questions for me? I know we're a little bit over at this point. Well, if you're interested, I'm also doing a gut-brain connection talk this Thursday. So there's still plenty of time to register if you'd like to do that. I'm going to talk about all things gut and brain related and how impacting your brain can impact your gut and vice versa. And it's a really, really interesting connection. If you're having digestive issues, you might also be experiencing cognitive issues or mood issues, and healing the gut can actually heal the brain and vice versa. So we'll talk about those techniques also.
So Nikki, just a couple of, one housekeeping item before we wrap up. I think now is a great time to announce a FullScript sale. We'll be having an additional 10% off, so the opportunity to receive 20% off supplements now through Memorial Day. You can create an account at our FullScript online dispensary by going to kemperwellness.com/FullScript, FullScript. And you need to create an account, and you can find the supplements we talked about there and receive an additional savings now through Memorial Day. One last thing I'd like to note too. We really appreciate you joining us for this webinar series. We'd like to help you if you're experiencing cognitive concerns. If you are noticing changes in your memory, your thinking, focus, or recall, now is really the time to act. Kemper Cognitive Wellness is here to help you now, so you can live better longer. Learn more about us at kemperwellness.com or call us at 216-337-1400. Thank you for joining us. Thanks so much, Nikki.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.